Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. I hope all of you are fine and having good health. Today we have lecture number 16, that is from the unit Fundamentals of Chemistry, and the topic we have it is chemical species. So let's have a look at what does mean by the chemical species, as this topic is new to you. So basically, chemical species it is also known as the ions, and ions are the type of chemical species as the charged species. So by definition, if we have a look on the chemical species or the ion, any atom that is having charge on it, it is known as an ion. And ion, there are basically types of ions. We have types of ions, two forms of ions. The first one we have it is cations, and the second one we have it is as anions. So how do the atoms get the charge? Basically, when we are talking about the ions, so these are the charged species and they may have two type of charge. The first one, they may have the positive charge and they may have the negative charge. These positive and negative charges are depending upon the number of electrons that they are going to lose or that they are going to the gain. So when an atom loses or gains the electron, then there is a change takes place in it and it is going to be changed into the ion, or that ion is known as the chemical species, or it is also known as the charged species. So for example, we have a neutral atom in the green, and when an atom is going to gain the electron, it is going to form the anion, and when it is going to lose the electron, then it is going to change into the cation. So let's have a look in detail of the types of the ions. When we are going to talk about the types of the ions, the number one type we have it is the cations, and the second one we have it is the anions. So why do atoms form cations and anions? The first question that arises in our mind, what is the main reason behind that? When we have a look on this universe, everything needs to get stability. What does mean by the stability? Stability mean release of the energy or the loss of energy. So everything around us needs to be get stable. Likewise, the atoms also need to get stable, and they get stable by the formation of the ions and the cations. Now these cations and anions are formed by basically the loss or gain of the electrons. So when atoms loses or gains the electron, they are going to form the chemical species, and that chemical species is known as the ions. So let's have a look that how do the cations are formed. Basically, cations are the types of ions that are having positive charge. So when cations are formed, the atoms acquire the positive charge. And why the atoms acquire positive charge? Because atoms loses the electrons. So when atom loses the electrons, it acquires the charge positive and changes into the ion, and that ion is known as the cation. So for example, if we have a sodium atom, its atomic number is 11. It's mean it is having total number of protons 11 and it is having total number of electrons 11. So let's have a look on its structure. The center of the sodium we have nucleus, that is protons and positive charge. Around the nucleus we have the circular orbits. These circular orbits have electrons, and sodium is having 11 electrons. The first shell it is having 2 electron, and the second shell it is having total 8 electrons, and the last shell it's having 1 electron. So to get stability, sodium needs total 8 electrons in the valence shell, but it is having only 1 electron, so it will lose that electron and its second shell becomes its valence shell, that is having total 8 electrons. So by losing the electron, the sodium becomes a positively charged ion like this, and Now it is having electrons. In the first shell it is having 2 electrons, and in the second shell it is having total 8 electrons, and now it has becomes a cation by acquiring positive 1 charge over it, and it is simple formation of cation, that is by the loss of electrons. Next we have the anions. So what does mean by the anions? As it is the inverse of the these are the ions that are having negative charge, and that negative charge is due to the gain of electrons. When an atom undergoes the gain of electrons, then it acquires the negative charge and changes into the anions. For example, if we have the chlorine, as its atomic number is 17, and by drawing its structure we just get that in the center we have nucleus, and around the nucleus there are the circular orbits in which the electrons revolve. So in the first shell it is having 2 electrons, second shell it is having 8 electrons, these are 10, and then 7 electrons in the valence shell. So this is the simple chlorine atom. Now by losing electrons, atoms form cations, but by gaining electrons, atoms will form the anions. Now it will be changes into the simple anion by gaining electron, and it will acquire the charge that is -1. So it is having total 8 electrons in the second shell, and next it is having this one electron and changes into the anion like -1. So here we have chlorine ion. So this is a simple formation of the anions. When we are talking about the ions, the anions having negative charge, this is due to the formation. This formation is due to the gain of electrons, and atoms gain electrons just to get the stability. To get the stability, atoms form the anions as well as the cations. So this is all about the today's lecture. I hope you guys understand, and if you have any queries you can ask me about that in the comment section, and I will get back to you guys soon inshallah. For that time, have a good day and Allah Hafiz.